Hi, my name's Chris Wolf. I'm the music director here at Classic 107, as well as host of Intermezzo, Monday to Friday in the 10 to 2 slot.
So, Chris, you are the music director here at Classic 107. For people that don't know what a music director is, can you explain to us what it is that you do?
My job consists of building the library, putting the CDs in, or digital audio files if needed, and programming the day, programming the day's music, making sure that the hours are timed out properly, there is enough Canadian content in the day for us to fulfill our Canadian content requirements. Yeah, that's my job. Yeah.
Now, you've been here since the very beginning.
Yeah.
So bring me back to that time before we launched the station when we were just...
Well, I was hired on Halloween of 2013, and I remember asking the question, what kind of a music library do we have? And I was told there isn't one. And we were supposed to go on the air December 5, and so it basically gave me a month to build a library. And so there were a lot of nights sitting at home, literally ripping CDs and putting them into the conversion software and labeling them, etc. A lot of late nights. Thankfully, I have a rather large CD collection, so I was able to rip a good portion of my library. I concentrated on the War Horses, Beethoven Emperor Concerto, Mozart symphonies, Beethoven symphonies, Dvorak, and I had that on hand, so that was nice. And I also made a point of making sure that Canadian recordings were being ripped as well, because I knew that we would need to be Canadian content compliant. So things like Tafel Music, Montreal Symphony, the Ariane Ensemble, Le Violon du Bois, all those groups went in. And they, in some ways, took priority when I was first building the library.
I mean, that was going to be my next question, is how do you even begin? How do you start with a certain time frame from classical music? Are you looking at composers?
I made a list in my head of what I thought should be in a starter library. Mozart symphonies were the top list, Beethoven symphonies, Schubert quartets and symphonies, obviously. So I made a mental list. The Handel music for the Royal Fireworks, that kind of thing. I don't want to use the word warhorse, but this very sort of core standard literature, and that I made a list of and made sure that I had ripped at least one recording of it before we went on the air.
So take us back to December 5th, 2013, when we launched, and that first day of programming. Was there anything specific you were, trying to get at, or how did you program that first day?
The first day of programming here on the station, I was still learning how to use the scheduling software and learning what it was capable of and not capable of. And I had a look at the log that we had when we first went on the air a couple days ago. And wow, some of the programming was sketchy, to say the least. But that's just the way it was. Like I say, I was still learning the systems. And yeah.
So how many pieces did we have in the library that day?
Well, we started with 0, and by the time we went to air, it was about 5,000 cuts were in the library.
And today?
And today we're sitting at about 86,000 individual tracks. So, a good portion of my job is putting this stuff in the system. And one of the nice things about my job is thinking, wow, this is a great piece. Why do we not have a recording of it? Getting a recording of it, putting it in the system, and also sort of exploring composers that are a little bit off the beaten path and trying to get their, those composers' music in the system. Before we went to air, I had it in my head that, yes, I wanted the station to play, Beethoven, Brahms, Mahler, Tchaikovsky, those kinds of composers, but also composers that were a little bit more off the beaten track. Niels Gade, maybe Reinecke, Carl Reinecke, Yeah, and I'm a fan of Scandinavian composers, so composers like Nielsen and Grieg's music, and not just the piano concerto and the Holberg suite, but some of his lesser-known, the piano sonata, the big lyric fantasy that he wrote for the piano. Yeah, so stuff that's a little bit more off the beaten path. I wanted to put in the system.
Is there any particular composer you've discovered that you've really grown to love?
Oh, yeah, there's many. Kurt Atterberg, I knew of him before we went, but I had not heard a lot of his music. And I chose to feature his music one week a couple of years ago, and well worth it because it's great stuff. Sort of a Scandinavian Mahler. I really like his music, as well as I've always been a fan of Baroque Italian music, but I didn't have quite the knowledge before we went on the air that I do now, and a lot of that has just been, again, through exploring composers from that time period. Giovanni Picchi, Claudio Marula, Padovano, these are all people who I'd never heard of, and you explore their music and find out that it's terrific and it needs to be heard.
What about an artist?
Well, lately, Danil Trifonov, the great Russian pianist, is sort of, he's the one that pops immediately to my mind. He's really made a splash, and for good reason. He is 100% the real deal. I sometimes get the feeling with record companies, they will very often have sort of a flavor of the month performer, but and Trifonov's here for the long haul.
So we're going to be completely honest here, putting all our cards on the table. Is there a composer that you just can't stand, but, you have to program them?
Well, there's pieces I can't stand, and, I'll program them anyway because it's not about me. Ravel's Bolero, famously, the orchestration, it's the same thing over and over. Anyway, and I gotta be honest, 100%. This is going to sound strange. I cannot wrap my head around the music of Benjamin Britten. I know a lot of people.
Apologies to Britten fans out there.
Appreciate it, but for whatever reason, my mind just. I don't know. It's not to say he didn't write some great pieces. I'm thinking of the interlude, the sea interludes from Peter Grimes. That's beautiful stuff. And he actually wrote a nice overture, I think Canadian Carnival it's called, which is great. But yeah, I'm Britain. I don't know. And the funny thing is I love English composers. That's another big passion of mine. I'm a big fan of Delius and Vaughan Williams and Stanford. I love these guys, but yeah, whatever.
Just don't get Britain.
I can't.
For the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, Britain.
So what is a typical day for you?
Well, it's long. And I get to work about 6:45 and schedule the day and schedule to continue scheduling from where I left off in the previous day. And then I come in at 10, do my show. And then when I leave the booth at 2, I go back to my desk and continue scheduling. And, if I want to get something to air that we don't have in the system, then I've got to, rip it and, convert it, and it has to go on the air, and that's it. And I'm generally in the summer, I'll leave 5:30, 6 o'clock. During the school year, because I teach on Monday, Tuesday evenings, I'm out of here by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then, yeah.
For people that don't know, you are a clarinetist, an excellent clarinetist.
Yeah.
You have.
Thank you.
You have your master's.
Yeah.
And tell us what.
I have a master's in clarinet performance. Yeah, from Arizona State, and then I freelanced for 13 years, paid the bills, and it was very nice. But I was looking down the barrel of 40. And pension was dogging me. I had a little bit of money set aside, but, I started looking at things and not nearly enough. And then I saw the ad for Classic 107. And, it was actually the program director's job I applied for.
My job.
Yeah, out of sheer, hubris, I guess, is the word, and arrogance. I never didn't really know what a program director did, but I must have made an impression when I went in for the interview because they hired me to be music director.
Well, I can't imagine the station without you as music director. I don't know where we'd be today without you as music director. So what has been the most surprising thing about this job 5 years down the road?
Wow, surprising thing. Boy, that's a good question.
Is it
A good thing is that since we went to air, I've noticed our listenership has grown, which is, it's nice to see. It's nice to be out in the community and hear from people that you wouldn't think listen to a classical radio station, and they come up and say how much they like the station. Yeah, that's nice. I was a little bit, I guess, surprised at really how automated we are. I mean, when I say put the stuff in the system, it means I'm putting it into the automation system so I can program it and it gets played off the drive. So, yeah, that I guess was a little bit more of a surprise. But yeah.
And I guess favorite thing is just discovering all this new
Yeah,
music.
the best part of the job for me is, aside from working with everybody here, because we do have it's a great group of people. I never get up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I got to go to work. I don't mind coming to work at all. But yeah, I mean, real pleasure for me is exploring the literature and finding out what's out there. I recently discovered this wonderful Swedish composer, Bror Beckman. Never heard of him, but he wrote a really nice violin sonata. I'm currently trying to get my hands on more of his recordings of his music. So, yeah.
As we celebrate 5 years, where do you see us going in the future? Where would you like to see us?
Well, I mean, it's nice that we're bringing in. I think the station has enough cachet to bring in that we're starting to see more international artists, like Tasman Little was in just a while ago. And so it was nice to meet her, and so it's nice to see that the station has that kind of pull for those kinds of artists. But there are other things. I mean, one of the things that I've been tossing around my head is airing concerts, full-on concerts. So, that would be something nice to see. But then there are issues with that would need to be ironed out as well.
Nothing's easy, folks.
Yeah,
There's always a lot of red tape.
Always red tape.
So I'd like to do a all request show.
Yeah.
That's something I'd like to see us do.
Which, would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
It'd be interesting to see what people listen to and, that kind of thing. So...
Well, Chris, like I said, I can't imagine the station without you being a part of it. And it's been a pleasure working with you all these years. And I look forward to the many more years still ahead of us.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Looking forward to it.